that you keep the balance even through the shoulders, so we're not leaning off to one side. Can you lean off to one side, Al? This is what tends to happen, and the hips tend to twist a little bit. So really try and keep the hips nice and square, just like Al was, and the hips, shoulders nice and square. And when you're ready, step the right leg through in between the hands. Now, if you have to, some of you won't be able to get that lovely sweep through like Eleanor just did. If I demonstrate, you might sort of get the leg here and then you have to kind of walk it forward a little bit, and that's totally fine. But what is important, that you get the knee in line with the ankle, that the knee's not over the ankle, otherwise you can risk damaging your knee. Okay, and we're going to reach up now to Warrior One. So reach the hands up towards the sky. Fantastic. And so you can see here, Eleanor's got her palms facing one another, and Al's got his palms or hands shoulder width apart. So either version's fine. If you can't bring the hands together and keep the arms straight, then you need to bring the palms shoulder width apart. So again, check in with your throat and make sure it's nice and soft. And the breath is long, smooth and even. And try and make sure that the back leg is nice and straight. And then exhale down, hands all the way down. Good. And stepping back to downward facing dog. Good. Take a couple of breaths here. Downward dog is a recovery pose. Now, for you who are guys who are beginners or haven't done much yoga, downward dog doesn't ever feel like a recovery pose, but the more that you do it, the more it will. You'll find that it's a comfort pose that you'll really enjoy doing. Okay, and left side, lifting the left leg, three-legged dog. It's it, keeping the hips nice and square. It's it, weight into the shoulders nice and square. Good. That's it. And then the left leg through. And again, if you can't just sweep it through, take a couple of steps, that's fine. So you can see here with Al and Eleanor that they've got the back leg nice and long. So really try and keep that leg nice and long, really lifting up the kneecap, and then when you're ready, inhaling the arms up above the head. That's it. And this is quite a balanced pose because we've got the back heel off. So again, you really need to work on working the thighs, and in particular squeezing the outer hips in towards one another. So they're part of your core, and again, the sideways in towards the spine and the skin on either side of the navel in towards the spine, and that will all help your balance. Yeah, your core stability, balance. So that's the best way to build core stability, is by practicing balancing poses where they naturally have to engage. And exhale the hands all the way down. And stepping back to downward facing dog. Fantastic. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to bend the knees and come through to sitting on our bottom. So Al will demonstrate with a nice jump through, and Eleanor and I will just come through, crossing the legs through and standing, sitting in Dandasana. And we're going to roll down through the spine, rolling down through the spine, vertebrae by vertebrae, and then arms above the head. And then we're going to lift the legs up to 90 degrees. Good. Long, smooth and even breaths. And we're going to exhale the legs down to just off the floor. So exhaling, the legs are nice and straight to just off the floor here. Good. And then bending the knees into the chest. And legs all the way back up, feet all the way back up, and exhaling down. So working with the breath. So you might be doing it a little bit faster than us or a little bit slower, and that's fine. And we're going to do 10 of them. Okay, and up again. Now what's important here is that the lower back is in contact with the floor. So it doesn't need to be pressed hard onto the floor, but it does need to be in contact. If it's arching, particularly when the legs come down, then what you need to do is you need to bend the knees. So I'm going to ask Eleanor to demonstrate this pose when you do the whole thing with bent knees. So you bring the legs, feet up a little bit, just to there, that's it, and then come down. So you can do it like this with the knees bent. Yeah. If you have lower back problems, then this is definitely the variation that you should be doing with the knees bent, or if you know you've got weak abdominals, you haven't long had a baby, then you need to be doing the variation with the legs bent, okay? Make sure that you keep the breath and the throat soft. So again, as I mentioned earlier, to make sure that you're not straining, make sure that the throat is really soft. And when you've done your 10, you can have a hard-earned rest, little rest in Savasana. Nice and spread. And the legs nice and strong with the knees together. So the tendency in this pose is for the knees to come apart. So you really want to keep them nice and together to keep the energy focused in on your core and your center. So after your last one, bringing the arms down and having a rest in Savasana like we started at the beginning. So the legs are wide, the hands and arms are a little bit away from the body, and the palms are up towards the sky. So just a few breaths here. We don't want to get too relaxed. And then when we're ready, inhaling the arms up above the head. And we're going to repeat, but we're going to do the circles the other way. So this time we'll bring our legs up to 90 degrees again. And this time bend the knees into the chest. And exhale the legs out nice and long along the floor, out this way. Good, and then inhaling them all the way back up again. And down, and exhaling. Good, and then back up. That's it. So again, if you're finding that the lower back's lifting off, it's really, really important that you take the bent knee variation, or if you find that you're getting a sore lower back, say after 4 or 5, then you probably need to make the circles smaller, or 4 or 5 is all you can do at the moment, and that will gradually build up with time. So as you practice these, the strength will build up and you'll be able to do more, and the legs will be able to become straighter. So you can see with Elle and Eleanor, their arms are nice and straight above their head, and the palms are facing one another. So again, for beginners, often the arms are bent, and the elbows are sort of pointing really up towards the sky. So you want to try and keep the elbows down as much as you can. And keep the neck soft, and the face soft, and the breath soft. So what are we up to, guys? 8. So we've got 2 more to go. And then Savasana again. Well done. And then resting when you're ready in Savasana. So then there's also the opposite is true. If you've been practicing this DVD for a little while and you're feeling that your core is getting really strong, you can do as many of these as you want to. You can do 20 circles each way to really build up that core strength. Okay, we're going to work on strengthening our lower back now, which is an area often overlooked and is also a reason why we get lower back pain as well, is from weak lower back. So we're going to roll onto our tummy. So if you guys roll over to your right and then just swivel your legs around behind. So the heads are at the front of the mat and we're laying down onto our tummies. Okay, and we're going to start off with Bhujangasana, which is cobra pose. And we're going to bring the hands underneath the shoulders. So both hands underneath the shoulders. Good. And again, just like we did in plank, the shoulders are down towards the sacrum, and the sacrum and tailbone are down towards the heels. So even when you're laying here on the floor, the tailbone and sacrum need to be long, and the core muscles will be engaging. And all back bending and all back strengthening exercises, it's really important that the core muscles are working. Okay. And we're going to inhale, and we're going to lift the head off and lift the hands off as well. So don't use the hands to lift you up, have the hands lifted off. That's it, like Elle here. So Eleanor's using the hands a bit, that's fine, just stay there, Eleanor. Good. And Elle's strengthening his back with lifting our hands off. Keep the throat soft. So as you can see, Elle hasn't been able to lift as high as Eleanor, but that's fine, that will come, and down we go. And with the hands underneath the shoulders, push back to Adho Mukha Virasana, forward hero pose.